The one who wants to get something done will always find a way, and he who doesn't want will have multiple excuses. My name is Iharoata. A wonderful morning here, 16th day in the month of December 2019. How time flies. We all thought this was one year that we got so many predictions and failed. As some say, hey guys, you're going into an election here. 2019 is going to be very tough for us. All the talks, all the shout, everything all collapsed here. And 2019 is almost rolling out now, and we are all set for the year 2020. My name is Iharoata again. It's now time for us to talk aviation. For the guys who are set here, the movement is massive. And the man on the screen here, Godwin N.E.K., the contact display on the screen for you to interface and reach him so that we can talk aviation. So much happening in the aviation industry. The headlines are already booming. Aviation Minister Hadi Sirika is talking tough here and say, hey guys, I'm not just a toothless bulldog here. We can back and we can bite. Welcome to the program, sir. A wonderful morning. Wonderful morning. How's the Hamatan weekend?
It's natural that it should come at this time, and so it's not. It's not doing what it shouldn't do. It's doing what it's been made and created to do, and so we must learn to live with it. And I'm actually enjoying it much more than the hot period, really.
Okay, somehow somebody does the cold, the Qatar, and all of that put together here. Yeah, quickly, I know we got a topic this morning, airport malaria. But quickly, let's look at what's happening. Yesterday we saw Turkish airline coming and begging, saying, look guys, don't be angry with us. We're going to get your luggage back here. We're going to bring them. We're very sorry here. We want to do business in Nigeria as the most populous country in Africa, the biggest economy on the planet here. What do you make of all of this talk? It has been all
well, I'm glad that the Honorable Minister and the rest of them in the aviation industry are sitting up and as a matter of fact, taking the bull by the horn. This has gone on for too long. And a whole lot of airliners have taken us so much for granted, and they really care so little about the feelings of Nigerians and about the treatment they give to Nigerians. And that's why they will bring very small aircraft, to carry so much, number of passengers that they get from Nigeria, and end up not being able to bring people's luggage along with them. It's all that sense of laxity and sometimes borders on sense of irresponsibility on the part of the airlines to so do, and it's happening because.
But are you not also worried when we have some connecting fly, for instance, here?
Yeah.
Let me talk, for instance, the last time I went to China, I flew Ethiopian Air.
Okay.
From Nigeria to Addis Ababa, we flew in a particular aircraft. The one that connects us from Addis Ababa down to Beijing was not different.
Yes,
Let's even sit at the distance now. Now, if you have some flight as well, you have connecting flight, and you're going to some other areas, it's so common that the flight that takes you out of Nigeria and the one that you will use in some other parts, almost the same distance, and not the same aircraft.
Yeah.
Why is it so? Are we made by a lesser God, or are we less important person here? Okay, someone is going somewhere. The person is saying, okay, look, I am going to connect. I'm going British Airways here. But if you observe very keenly, the British Airways aircraft that picks you from Abuja or Lagos are taking you down to say Heathrow, will be different from the beautiful one, tastefully beautifully one, that will maybe be connecting you to other parts of the world.
You are still harping on, what I was saying to you before you cut in. It's all exactly the same, taking people for granted, and officials who are supposed to represent the people and protect the people's interest, not showing enough interest in what should be, for the people. And so a whole lot of people of the world have imbibed the habit of taking Nigeria and Nigerians for granted, because the whole idea and attitude is no one is going to lift a finger. And even if someone does, like one silly joke that I always had, said to have been credited to a Lebanese, I'm not sure, but that's what you hear around. Oh, that in Nigeria anything is possible. Even to see God is possible. Just do what you have to do. That was the silliest thing I ever heard in this country. When a foreigner will come here and, yes, tell us to our faces that for as long as they put money on the table, you can see God if you so desire. And people use this language so recklessly and freely all over the places. It hurts me and hurts me so deeply that if I had laid hands on whoever it was that made that comment, I would have turned him into the police and say, come on, get this guy.
What if you got there and you see God?
Well, that's part of it. That's part of it. But you see, let's bring it back to what we're discussing about the airliners. They have so taken us for granted, believe that nobody will lift a finger, and even if anyone dares lift one, that they can put something on the table and have somebody look the other way. Believe you me, that is the impression and that is the attitude. Now you've just made a comparison. They bring you some small old airplanes here and take you to their homeland, but then when they are going to a more serious-minded nation that will not tolerate what they do here, they use the appropriate airplanes to go to those trips. So we need to sit up. I mean, those that have been saddled with the responsibility of managing our aviation sector must know that this is the image of Nigeria. We've got to sit up. If any foreign airline wants to do the lucrative business that they do in Nigeria, you give them your conditions. As a matter of fact, you tell them the brand of airplanes that they must bring here. If you don't have, then you're not ready to do business with Nigeria. These are things that we can do. But what can you do as an ordinary citizen that has no power to make decisions?
I think we'll come down here, time flies, we'll come back here. Let's hope that those in the sector here, the NCAA, Aviation Minister Hadi Sirika, and all those who are involved in the process here will just be up and doing and do the needful to ensure that Nigerian air travelers are not shortchanged. Now, this morning we're looking at someone airport malaria. What is airport malaria?
Oh, wonderful.
That's what many persons will be asking, what's airport malaria?
Airport malaria, as a matter of fact, the victims of this topic called airport malaria would not necessarily be those of us that live in a malaria endemic country. Those that should worry about this particular thing is people who live in areas that mosquitoes can't survive, and therefore malaria is not known to be there, but they suffer them anyway, as you're going to see. But it brings home the message that as good as airports are, they also have their drawbacks, and they have things that, unacceptable things that they bring to bear on our nation. Okay. If you think about airport malaria, for instance, you should be able to think about airport hepatitis. You should be thinking about airport Ebola. I mean, remember 1 or 2 years ago, we dealt with a topic titled Aviation and Ebola. You remember that?
Very clearly.
Yes, very well. And so this is calling the attention of those that are serving us at our airports that they are doing, as thankless as this job can be sometimes. I understand that how they feel when they think that the hard work they're doing for Nigeria appears to be thankless. I want to urge you, get on with the job. You're working for your nation. And what's more, what you're doing is unquantifiable. Nobody can ever pay for it. But please get on with the job and make sure you keep us all safe. Because if we can export mosquitoes through the airplanes and get people suffer malaria in areas that they shouldn't be having malaria, it follows that we can have imported here the likes of Ebola, the likes of hepatitis, and the rest of them. So that is the whole idea of choosing to really deal with this topic today. So let's go to clip one and take a look. Is there? Very well. Yep. So, definition of airport malaria. Airport malaria manifests when a malaria-infected female Anopheles mosquito travels by aircraft from a country where malaria is prevalent, arrives in a country where malaria is usually not found, and bites a person at or around the vicinity of the airport.
Good.
A person further away from the airport can also be infected if the mosquito travels in a luggage, especially if the climate of the area is suitable. Okay? Known also as baggage malaria, luggage malaria, or suitcase malaria, the infected person usually presents with a fever in the absence of a recent travel history. That is to say, somebody is living in an area that malaria is not, and mosquitoes can't even survive, for instance, and he or she comes down with fever. No, but you don't even think, because it doesn't exist in that zone, the individual doesn't even think that he or she has malaria. And they begin to look at other things. Before they know it, it's too late, and guess what? Death occurs. And so it's quite dangerous for people who are living in those kind of areas. So known also as baggage malaria, luggage malaria, or suitcase malaria, the infected person usually presents with a fever in the absence of a recent travel history. This person has not traveled, as to say he or she got bitten by a mosquito in the endemic place that he or she went to, but they have malaria anywhere. So and here's what happens. More often than not, the person does not suspect malaria, as he or she has not traveled to a malaria endemic country. This results to a delay in diagnosis and often death.
Okay.
Quite dangerous, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. Too.
Clip 2 is just like the Ebola thing. Okay, it's not here at the moment, and somebody comes down with it. He or she is thinking about malaria, thinking about typhoid fever and the rest of them, but you actually have something more, dangerous.
That's clip 2.
Yeah, here we go. Causes of airport malaria. Human malaria is known to be native to about 97 countries. We're going to see the map of the world and see marked areas where you have this malaria thing, prevalent and endemic. And is the world's most prevalent vector-borne disease with 202 million new cases identified in 2015. That's WHO.
That's much.
Yeah, about 202 million new cases identified.
About all the ones that are not reported.
Oh, here you go.
Just go and just take your buy drugs and you just go.
And the ones that are not reported may be much more. Yeah. Occurrences outside endemic countries are as a result of importation through flights and suitcases from endemic areas. You see how it's going on?
Correct.
Although malaria transmission in flight or on a stopover is not considered airport malaria. Did you get that? When there's a transmission in flight while you're still in the airplane, leaving an endemic nation, or you have a stopover somewhere which is endemic as well, and you get bitten and you pick up malaria, this is not considered airport malaria. Okay? So although it's not considered airport malaria, it is specifically caused by the transmission of malaria parasites to a human through the bite of a malaria-infected mosquito that has traveled by aircraft on an international flight from a country where malaria is usually found to a country where malaria is usually not found.
Correct.
It occurs more often at or around the vicinity of the airport. Take a look at that photograph there. You see an Anopheles mosquito feeding away on blood,
that's true.
and in the process passing on. We're going to see how this happens, the cycle and how it happens. Let's go on quickly to clip 3 and take a look at species of the protozoan parasite Plasmodium. The Plasmodium is a parasite that gives you malaria. Out of over 200 species of Plasmodium described over the years, 5 species of the protozoan parasite Plasmodium are notorious for infecting humans. Number 1, Plasmodium vivax, which they usually call P. vivax. Number 2, Plasmodium falciparum, the most dangerous of them all that we really have in Nigeria. Number 3, Plasmodium malariae. Number 4, Plasmodium ovale. And number 5, Plasmodium knowlesi. These are the 5 major ones that cause malaria around the world. But over 200 species have actually been identified by researchers. Okay. Plasmodium falciparum is known to be the most lethal in humans, as it is responsible for the death of hundreds of thousands of people annually. Although a number of drugs have been developed to treat Plasmodium infection, the parasites have evolved resistance to each drug developed. And that's why every day you find different brands and different mixtures and additives, in order to thwart the resistance of Plasmodium. The picture you have there, we're going to have an enlarged part of it where, if we find time, I'm going to describe to you, what's going on there. The one on the left is talking about the life cycle of the malaria parasite. We're going to see an enlarged one shortly, and then we'll be able. And then the one on the right is the Plasmodium itself, its nature, and something that you only see through the microscope, but it's made. Isn't God wonderful? It's made of different, membranes and different stages, and as little as it is, it's unbelievable. Let's go to clip 4 very quickly. Yes, clip 4 for us. The life cycle of Plasmodium.
I think if we can now, we can take a break, just a brief break very quickly. We'll come back. Let's take a break. We got some bills to pay. We'll come back very quickly. We'll move on with the program. We've got issues of security to discuss, but let's just take a break. After the break, the program will continue. Okay, thanks for staying with us. It's still Aviation Update. We're looking at airport malaria. Can we please quickly get back clip 4? Let's go back to clip 4. Godwin NDK is very much in the house. Let's get back to clip 4. And let's rush through. Okay, I think that's clip 4.
The life cycle of Plasmodium. Good. That's the last clip. Then we'll take a look at some of the photographs if we can analyze them. The life cycle of Plasmodium involves complex and distinct stages in the insect and vertebrate hosts. First, parasites are introduced into a vertebrate host by the bite of an insect host. You know what I mean by vertebrate, like human, and then of course insect, the mosquito, most likely mosquito. The liver is the first to be infected by the parasite. Other tissues may also be infected. In the liver or other tissues, the parasites undergo a single round of replication before exiting the host cell to infect the erythrocytes. At this stage, some species of Plasmodium of primates can form a resilient dormant stage called hypnozoite. Okay, that is if you are dealing with primates like the monkeys and the rest of them, and chimpanzees and stuff. They can stay in there dormant for a couple of years until they find their way to human beings. Yeah, this can remain in the liver for more than 1 year. On emerging from the liver, they enter the red blood cells. From there, they go through continuous cycles of erythrocyte infection. A small percentage of parasites transform into a sexual stage called gametocyte, which is picked up by an insect host taking a blood meal. So in actual sense, when mosquitoes perch on your skin and sucking away, they're actually feeding. And they do not really intend to do harm to you. is a normal cycle of one killing the other to feed.
You call it a blood meal.
It's a blood meal. They're feeding to stay alive. But unfortunately, in the process of the feeding, they pass on this stuff that we don't need. So from there, they go through continuous cycle of erythrocyte infection. A small percentage of parasites transform into a sexual stage called gametocyte, which is picked up by an insect host taking a blood meal. In some hosts, invasion of erythrocytes by Plasmodium species result in disease called malaria.
Correct.
So that is how we come down with this thing called malaria, and we're quite endemic here.
Now, if we can move on very quickly as we round up here, how can we check this? Because I know for sure that particularly when it gets to the period of loading, mosquito can easily go in, particularly at very good temperature, not too hot, not too cold, not too hot anyway. They can easily go in. The other one as well, when it gets to during the period of boarding, they can as well easily go in here. Like what you said, inside luggage as well, some can easily go in, particularly when you have to open your luggage for them to check, and you have mosquitoes in those areas, they can easily go in here. But how can we reduce this?
It's quite complex and very tricky. When the doors are open, you have no way of really preventing mosquitoes from moving in. What is expected is that what should reduce it, because you're not going to be able to eliminate it completely. In my opinion, what should reduce it is that before passengers board, there should be some kind of odorless anti-mosquito spray that should be sprayed around the aircraft and given a little time to get off, so that it does not, the chemical stuff does not harm the human beings that you're going to load into that airplane. But and then again, it makes more sense to always use the concourse. You know that corridor that you walk through, especially when you are doing international travel. That's what it's known as a concourse. It takes you all the way right into the airplane. If you are able to contain the concourse and have the whole area fumigated. Or
what about in the luggage compartment?
That except for those,
because it's open for long.
Yeah,
mosquitoes can go in, and when you
for those ones, I have to really find out what the effect of spraying after you lock up is. I need to investigate it to find out whether it has any safety issues when the airplane gets up in the air. That needs to be investigated to be sure of what. Otherwise, one should have said it's as simple as after loading.
Okay.
After loading, you just spray the place and then lock it up, because it's sealed and does not find its way into the passenger's cabin. Do you understand? Yeah. So in that way, you will not be exporting mosquitoes. But there again, let's be mindful that the people who appear to be doing this for are those that are living in areas that do not have malaria, and and as we show concern for them that import it from us, let's be mindful of those other diseases that can be imported in our nation.
Okay.
So I am urging those at the airports, continue to do the patriotic job you're doing. We love you all, and we know that your job sometimes can be thankless, but please never mind. Get on doing it, and let's build our nation and be proud of the nation we have.
Okay, let's build our nation and be proud of the nation that we have. That's the final words there for Mr. Godwin Enike. If you believe in it, then you can be like him. Passion is the watchword here. Every Monday morning he comes here, get you properly schooled here. We are not paying him for this here. Get you properly schooled here and ensure that you travel very safely here. It's December 16th here. Most of you are going to be traveling, and he's already saying, hey guys, Be very careful while you travel. Let's just be careful here. And as we go on next week, we'll be looking at all of these. We'll bring in tips as you travel, what you'll be looking out for, and not just this mad rush where you get to the airport. You are completely not within the airport. Just have your earpiece on, get some music. You're not even seeing anybody. You're seeing only your boarding pass. You want to get cleared, go into the plane, and you're making all the calls. But you must be very fixed and tied to your own environment. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, my brother.
Thank you very much for coming. Have a wonderful Hamatan Monday.
Yeah, that's correct. I love it.
Okay,
I really love it.
We'll take a break now. When we return back after the break, we will be looking at security at the U-Tide here. We got with us the Deputy PPRO of the FCT Police Command. That's Lady Mary, and will be joining me on set, and we'll be talking security after this break.